Make her happen. I'll get on here and do some tagging. Let's see here.
Was Coach Parsons was the induction for your son good this weekend?
It was awesome. They started with 106 and graduated 81, and he was ironically his nickname was Principal Parsons because he was writing all the. I had about 4 or 5 kids that were their kids to me, but young men that came up to me and they said, "Hey, I would have never graduated if it wasn't for your son. You know, he's making 100-question study guides for all the tests and helping them through it and tactics and, you know,
Nice.
pulling over. And he just, you know, he's a natural leader. And, you know, I always thought he'd get into coaching, but he told me, he said, you know, I grew up around it. I loved it, but, you know, I want to do something different with my adult life, which I get. I understand, you know. And, but yeah, I was probably more proud about that than I was him graduating. Not that I was proud of that, but, you know, 4 or 5 guys coming up to you and saying, "Hey, your son was awesome. I would have never graduated without him. He was pushing us." And he was I called a platoon leader, but that's not what it's called with the, you know, he was in charge of about 10 or 12 guys and held them accountable, physical training. And he said, "I could never finish first. I was always third, Dad." He said, I kept losing to a Navy SEAL. And I go, "Well, you're in a hell of a lot better shape than I am." So
Right.
a lot better shape. Sorry about that. So
Yeah. No, you're good.
No, you're good. Don't worry. If anything falls, don't worry about it. It's we've had some things we've said. So
Yeah.
I try not to do that though, because I know it's the way of the world, but
yep. Coach
All right.
Coy, I think
You want to get fired up? Let's get rolling.
Whenever you're ready to get it popping,
All right.
let's get it bouncing.
All right. We are Beyond the Scoreboard podcast. We are on episode number 14. We have a guest that will introduce himself here in just a second. We also, as always, are going to give shout out to JP Stenda's got the AdCraft shirt on there, the Beyond the Scoreboard podcast shirt.
Yep.
If anybody wants one, feel free to comment, message one of us. We'll hook you up. Also make sure you follow our Facebook page, our Twitter/X page as well. And then if you can't be on live, then you can get back and watch anytime that you want on Facebook or X. So without further ado, we have a guest on episode number 14 here, Coach Jeff Parsons. Coach Parsons, if you want to go ahead and give a brief introduction to yourself to the viewers, and we'll get rolling here.
Yeah, Jeff Parsons. I'm the principal and the athletic director at Fulton High School. It's my first full year as principal. I've been an admin with an AD for 25 plus years and came to Fulton as the assistant, and Bob Gosh moved on and they promoted me, and I'm pretty excited about that. That was a journey. It's this year 32. I've coached for 30 years, basketball, and 11 with baseball, and been an AD for 20 plus years. So this is kind of the natural transition. I won't say retirement. I feel better at 57 than I did when I was 37. I don't know why. I work out every day and eat healthy, but you can't tell it by people looking at me. So, but yeah, that's fortunate enough. I know Coach Coy announced it, and I don't like to say that, but I had a fortunate enough career to be inducted into the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association, and that was a very humbling experience to be a member of the Hall of Fame. And when I got that call, I just didn't feel like I was a member of that society because of the coaches that I knew that were in the Hall of Fame. So that stunned me. So, it was quite an experience. It was very humbling, and and Coach Coit wanted to talk to me about, hey, what give me your records, what happened here, what happened there, and I had to reach out to my wife and son and daughter because I just never kept track of all that stuff. It was all about the kids, and we always said boys to men. They come in as boys, they leave as men, and I've had some really good college players or high school players who went to college, but the fact that they're better men than they are players and people is what kind of motivates me. So
awesome. You kind of have a unique position right now. You're the principal and AD, correct, at Fulton?
That is correct. In fact, Mr. Gosh left late. I was the athletic director, and as you guys well know, you can't just say, hey, we're going to give you the AD job and we're going to train you in 2 weeks. I mean, it's just not something you can do. And I'm fortunate enough at Fulton to have Marie Myers as my athletic secretary, and she is phenomenal. And these 2 jobs, I have Stacy Bueno as our attendance and academic secretary, and Kathleen Skipper is our assistant principal, and she's had 20 plus years there at Fulton with curriculum and has a sports background, obviously, and living legend. Her father, John Elder, who started the Illinois Football Coaches Association that Coach Lower is very big into. And it's the support system is huge, or there's no way I could have ever do both those jobs. So I'm learning daily principalships, and I've tried to mimic the good principals I've worked for through the years and what were their good traits, and try to avoid what I thought wasn't their good traits. And but the athletic directorship, though, it's I'm doing that 20 plus years and got a pretty good handle on it. But without Marie and Stacy in the office, I am a shell of myself, no question.
Yeah, you do a really good job too. I know, like, being at all the events and even away events as an AD, but adding principal duties on top of that, that's got to be, you're probably not home very often and always on the move, I'm sure. But
that is correct. And my wife's an administrator, and she was, it takes, as you well know, it takes a special person to be a coach's wife, and she was. So we've kind of got our own journey. There's nights we don't see each other, maybe the next day, hey, how's it going, how was your day, and stuff like that. This is how we are. We're very good together, but also independently solid too as well. We both have our things that we need to do interest wise and stuff like that. So it's a good mix.
Sweet. All right. We'll get to several coaching questions a little bit later here, but we're going to get into NFL draft recap real quick. Coach Parsons, I know you were busy this weekend with your son's graduating from the police academy, but Stinda and I are big football guys, Steelers, Bears, so we're going to talk a little bit about that and kind of how the draft went down briefly here. First thing I'll mention is obviously this was a draft for the quarterbacks. There were 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks, which has never happened before. The one that took shockwaves through everyone was the Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr. at number 8.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
After they signed Kirk Cousins for a 4-year deal, $180 million. So, Stinda, give me your thoughts on the number 8 pick for the Falcons and what you think they were thinking there.
Well, here's what I don't understand is this. Number one, I think his signing from the get-go, signing Kirk Cousins for $180 million, he's won 1 playoff game, come off an Achilles injury, was kind of just juvenile as it is. Yeah. But to then make that pick and take, at the number 8 pick, take now a rookie quarterback who's 24, you have Kirk Cousins for what? He's guaranteed $90 million of that 180, and he's guaranteed to be the starter for 2 years unless he just doesn't perform. But I think, honestly, that has to go down as one of the worst draft picks in the history of the NFL. I don't see what's behind it. Why would you, I just don't get it. I don't think there's really any explanation for it.
Yeah. And I mean, my thought on it was like, why wouldn't you get somebody to help your team like right now? Because if Kirk Cousins doesn't get hurt or, whatever, he's going to be their starter for probably at least 2 years for sure, and maybe 4. And the other thing with rookie contracts is there's always 5th-year options. So if Kirk Cousins plays for 4 years, then the Falcons have to decide if they're picking up Penix's option without him ever even really playing. So how do you pay a guy that you haven't really seen play? Plus their backup was Taylor Heineke, who's won several NFL games as a starter. So it was kind of mind blowing to me. But I mean, I guess if Cousins goes down, and I guess they have an option there, or they have their quarterback maybe 4 years from now in the future, I guess. But it was a wild pick. Even Kirk Cousins and his agent were a little upset about it. But definitely the surprise of the draft, the first round there. I don't know, Coach Parsons, if you followed that or watched much of the draft, or you probably heard about it in the sports world, but got any thoughts on it?
I do a little bit, yeah. Sports wise, you know how we are, but I think maybe they are. I totally agree with you. I think they should have taken somebody to help their squad immediately because it's not like they're competing at a high level down there. I mean, they have in the past, but not at the level that the Bucks are at right now. But my thought is, and this could be a total excuse, is they are trying to follow what the Packers have done, drafting a really good quarterback and having him work with Kirk Cousins. But like JP stated, you win. And I look at guys, who's your favorite guy of this? Who do you follow here? Most of the guys I follow are, for lack of a better term, are winners. And, you look at Cousins, one playoff win. I mean, that scares me. And
yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's talented. Don't get me wrong, but I've had a lot of talented players that didn't play well under pressure, and the ones that play well under pressure are the ones that help you hang championship banners. So maybe that's what they're doing. That's the only thing I can come up with.
And Coach Parsons, and here's what do you think about this? And Jordan Love, I get that theory, and I agree with you to some extent. They're like, hey, maybe they think, hey, it worked for Jordan Love. Jordan Love is 21. This guy, he's 24. Yeah. He's at minimum. He's going to be almost 27 by the time, if let's say in 2 years, Kirk Cousins are like, we'll just give you the $90 million. We don't want you. He's going to be almost 27 years old. And I mean, like you said, I just don't, I like I said, is there any logic behind it? Maybe they're just they think they saw something. Their manager, whoever was their owner was saying, well, yeah, if we're in a good position. If, he's there 4 or 5 years learning under him, I'm like, Kirk Cousins is not going to be there for 5 years. Maybe he does stick there 4 years. But like you said, you're not winning under that guy. He might win regular season games, but he clearly can't win when it matters. So I think there it's like, I don't even, like I said, probably one of the most boneheaded picks ever in the draft that I've seen anyways, or I can remember.
Yeah, it didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it was one of those. I was sitting on the couch watching it, and I'm like, "What? Like, what are they doing?" It was a shocker, but
oh man,
very interesting. The other thing I found interesting, at least the first, top 15 picks, is that there wasn't a defensive player selected till the 15th pick of the draft. Usually, there was a lot of good edge rushers in there, but that just kind of showing that the NFL is obviously geared toward offense. They want the league wants them to score points, and everyone's picking guys, and obviously the quarterback and receiver class was pretty good this year. So a lot of those guys went early in those, but I just thought that was interesting. No defensive guys went till a little later in the draft, but that's kind of first round stuff for me. JP, how do you what are your thoughts on your Steelers, their picks? You like it? Don't like it?
Well, I got to give a shout out to Logan Lee, even though I'm not a Hawkeye fan. Him getting drafted by that was cool because I actually got a call from Liz Skiff, and she's like, hey, we sent you this video, and Logan Lee did a video for me, and he was like, hey, Stenda, go Steeler Nation or whatever. Again, I thought that was cool. I think they addressed all the needs. They've been graded by the Insider as an A throughout the entire draft. They revamped. They have their offensive line. They didn't have an offensive tackle, and they didn't have a center. And guess what? They have all 5 starting positions locked in. You've got a rookie center. You've got a rookie tackle. You got Broderick Jones from last year. To what they added, I think kind of like the Bears from the quarterback position down offensively. Yeah, I don't think they could have done any better. And even they got that Roman Wilson from Michigan as a wide receiver. I think he's kind of a sleeper as a 3rd round pick. I was impressed with how they drafted. First time in a long time where I was like, wow, we actually might be getting it right for once.
Yeah. We gotta get Logan Lee on the podcast.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, Logan. Yeah.
Get an NFL player on here. It'd be nice. It'd be good.
I think with him, looking at like what they were kind of saying about him, like as the draft pick, I think, he he probably find a way special teams, and he fits good for Pitt, I think, because they like to rotate on the defensive line. Cam Hayward's old, he still plays at a high level, but the younger guys they have up there, I think he probably could find a way to get in the rotation somehow.
What's he weight wise right now? What did he get weight at?
290.
Oh shit! Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
I
6'3".
I think he was lighter than that, but yeah, he could do that for sure.
So I like I said, not a Hawk fan at all, but it's cool, knowing somebody that's related to him and then him going there, because from what it sounds like, he's been a diehard Steeler fan since he was a kid.
Oh, really?
He always wanted to go there, and that was the place to go. So I just thought that was pretty special to see that happen. So I hope I might have to become an Iowa fan now, I guess. So
ooh, easy there, Stenda. You don't need to do that.
You never know. You never know.
Coach P, who's your NFL team?
I follow. I do 2 fantasy football drafts every fall. So whoever my offensive guys are is who I usually follow. I grew up. My dad was a Bear fan, but holy cats, they are so frustrating to watch at times. Yeah. I just, still love the '85 Bears. They were my favorite team. It was my senior year in high school. Yeah, I know I'm old, but
I was born in '85.
Yeah, well, now you make me feel even worse.
Hey, I wasn't even born.
There you go.
All right,
no, that's all right. That was a great team, and of course, Coach Ditka does a great job, or did a great job, and so I kind of follow them a little bit. But and ironically, years of fantasy football, I always ended up with Aaron Rodgers, so I found myself watching more Packer games. So I'm like, you can't put the Bears and Packers in the same. Hey, I like watching the Packers. Hey, I like watching the Bears. So,
right.
So
you can't be a fan of both those.
No,
teams.
Absolutely not. So that's why I kind of lay low.
Fantasy.
I'm a Bears fan, so I will say they are getting better for sure. I think draft wise, this past weekend they like the Steelers. They addressed all their needs. Obviously, they got a quarterback in Caleb Williams. They got another good receiver, the kid out of Washington, and Dunze, and then they needed another lineman. They got that in the 3rd round. A little surprised by the punter in the 4th round with the kid from Iowa, Torrey Taylor. He's obviously the best punter in the nation, but usually punters don't go that early, so that kind of surprised me. And the Bears needed an edge rusher, and that was at the time their last pick because they only had 4 picks. So then I was like a little disappointed they didn't get that edge rusher and got a punter, but they made a trade in the 5th round, ended up getting an edge rusher out of Kansas. I think Booker's his last name. Yeah. So that was what they needed. They addressed it and got it, and even made some trades to make sure they did it. So I was happy with it. And now time will tell if these rookies will pan out or not, and go from there.
Yep. Did you feel like, are you on the Caleb Williams bandwagon? I know there's a lot of people that are, a lot of people that aren't. Obviously, you got to wait and see.
Yeah,
but
it's a great question. I honestly kind of have mixed emotions on the whole thing still. Obviously, he's going to be the guy, but I was always a keep Justin Fields guy for the longest time, and then they obviously traded him to JP Steelers. But I don't know. There's so many. I've never seen a number 1 draft pick where it's been split basically of like the so-called experts that say he's going to be a bust. The other ones are saying he's a generational talent. Like usually they're all kind of generational talent or don't really know, but it's pretty much been split, I think, for everyone that I've seen. So I don't know. It's hard to say, but the Bears got a lot of offensive weapons now. They did a great job in the offseason, and he's just going to have to make sure that he, I don't want to say game manager, but maybe kind of like a Brock Purdy type quarterback, where just take care of the ball, get it to your guys in space, let them do their work. You don't have to go anything crazy downfield. So hopefully he has that. I know that's not really his mentality in college. He was slinging it all over the place. So might have to rein that in a little bit in the NFL, but yeah, we'll wait and see, I guess. I hope he throws 30 touchdowns and throws for over 4,000, 5,000 yards, but who knows?
That's uncharted territory at
The
Chicago.
Bears, yeah, they've never had a 4,000 yard passer.
Yep.
They never have.
Never.
Oh
Not
my!
once in the history of the Chicago Bears.
Cutler, how close was Cutler?
He had like high 3,000s a couple years, but he never got to 4.
Wow.
So,
Well, he might.
Wow.
I think the only thing with Williams, like you guys were both saying, is you just don't know until they actually play and compete.
Yeah.
And that's at the end of the day, like you guys have seen it. There's been a lot of guys that have been busts, and then guys that were drafted late and they become elite receivers, quarterbacks, whatever. It's like, I get it. I think, he definitely, the way he talks himself up, you're like, yeah, this guy's going to be the greatest thing ever. But I hope at the end of the day, he can back it up, because I don't want to see them not do well. But, you just never know until they put the pads on. And, you're going from middle school football to the big leagues now. So,
he is an extremely confident kid.
yeah, he is,
which is good. You need that, but man, I don't know. He might be humbled early, but we'll see. So,
yep. Go Bears, bear down, baby.
Go Bears,
bear down, bear down.
Anybody got anything else on the draft before we move on to the next topic here? All good. All right. Coach Parsons, next topic we want to get into, and I know this is the second year of it, but we're going to talk a little bit about the pitch clock in Major League Baseball. Because I don't know if a lot of people really talk about it or whatnot, but as most of us know, they obviously have I believe it's 15 seconds in between batters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 15 seconds with no runners on base, and you get 18 with runner on base. Was 20 last year, now it's 18. But anyway, obviously it's sped up the game a little bit. Baseball games aren't going over 3 hours much anymore. They're usually like in the 2.5 hour range now with the pitch clock. As I know, JP, you've been watching baseball. I know you follow the Cardinals. Unfortunately, there, Coach Parsons, but anyway, what are your guys' thoughts on the pitch clock? Do you like it? Do you think it's good for the game? Who's at the advantage? Is it the pitcher, the hitter? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Go ahead, Coach B.
I think it's been good because, we're in the, and I call it the email and text message era, and people aren't, watching things at length like they used to, and I think it's helped the game. I was skeptical because I'm a pure baseball purist and coaching it and watching it for everything. And I told Coach Coit, JP, that surprisingly, as a 30-year basketball coach, pro baseball is the only thing I watch. I watch NFL. I got the screens, 4 or 5 screens up, watching my fantasy guys, and games all said, but the Cardinals, they're a bit frustrating this year, but I watch them. I don't watch the NBA because I can't stand it. There's no defense. Anyway, that's a whole nother. Yeah. But anyway, but pitch clock wise, I think it's been good. I think who has the advantage? I think the pitcher does, but because, he can hold on to that thing as long as he needs to, as long as he gets it off with 1 or 2 seconds left. The batter really, has to be in there and be focused and ready. You don't see the step out, step off the mound, the mind games that way and stuff like that. And honestly, you see less high and tight stuff. You'll see it from time to time, but not near like it was before because of the pitch clock stuff. I doubt that has any correlation, but it might. You don't know.
I agree. I agree on the pit. My notes I made was, I think pitcher slightly because of Coach Parsons, what you said, it disrupts the batter from adjusting the batting gloves, taking the strolls outside the box. Like you said, once they get in there, it's go time. I don't think they have as much time to think about. To an extent, does it hurt the batter? They don't have a lot of time to be like, all right, what's this guy going to throw me now? It's a 2-2 count. This is the second time I've seen him, third time. I think it's kind of like you just got to get in there. It's like, all right, you're the best. You got to make it work. I'm with you, like the just like old school baseball. Like I liked how like pitchers back in the day could controlled in the batters. The guys that pitch quick. They got slowed down by the batters, but I think it probably puts them at the end of the day on an even playing field now for both, whether it's pitchers or batters.
Yeah, and there's no more like Nomar Garcia Parras. Remember with the batting gloves and like his on his thing before he got in the box. But yeah, I think the pitcher probably definitely has the most advantage of it. I mean, hitters got to be in there ready to hit also, but the pitchers, like Coach Parsons says, can kind of time it right, or they might throw it with 5 seconds left one time, 8, they can mix up when they're bringing it. But the other thing I think I like is that the stolen bases have been increased. I think I saw a stat. I think I put it on my notes, but last year there's the most stolen bases in the major leagues in 40 years because of the whole you can only step off or have 2 disengagements per at bat. So you can only go pick off twice or step off twice or however they're doing it. So obviously after 2 pickoff attempts, if you got a guy on the base pass that has some speed, you're probably going to send him, because the pitcher can't go there. So that adds a little strategy to it and things like that. But it's just interesting. And and obviously they're just like the NFL, they're gearing, they want more offense. That's why they're doing that kind of stuff to increase those stolen bases and stuff. But I like the pitch clock. I think it's good. Like I said, like Coach Parsons said, though, like when I go to a Major League Baseball game, like I just love sitting there and watching the game and like taking it all in and doing some people watching and just seeing all the nuances of the game. It's pretty cool, but pitch clock is good.
Yeah. Well, like it cuts down on time, but you had a stat there, Coach Coy. I was kind of surprised seeing like the cut down of it. Like there's not a big difference though. It's like
I think it was like 24 minutes. Yeah.
Like, so to me as a fan, it's like 24 minutes, like it's nothing really. But then maybe in hindsight, maybe it really is for Coach Parsons. I know you mentioned people are like, they don't want to be engaged that long. They're on their phone. They're talking to people. I could see that might be a big difference at the end of the day. But I was kind of surprised on that stat for sure.
Yeah, I think viewership's up too. I didn't look that stat up, but I think like people are watching baseball more now too with the pitch clock, because I don't know. I mean, watching baseball on TV can kind of be sometimes a little monotonous, if there's nothing to speed it up, so I don't know. I think it's good. I like it. Speaking of, we talked about this a little bit last week. I want to get Coach Parsons' take on this because he is a former baseball coach. What do you think of the minor league system? They do like half the year, basically robot umpires. What are your thoughts on that as far as like major league adopting that and having basically a robot umpire calling balls and strikes?
Again, and this probably shows my age, but I'm an old school guy. I like the game to be replicated like it always has been. I don't want to change it enough. I mean, outside of Angel Hernandez, everybody's pretty consistent. I mean, I hate to address the elephant in the room, but it's true.
No, you're right.
And, Alex Tossi, there's a kid from Dunlap. I don't know if you guys are aware of him, but he called a perfect game the other night. And, he was 100% accurate. He's a Dunlap kid. He's young. He's 25. And a couple of my college buddies had coached him in high school and stuff. So that's fun to watch. And, it's just about, back in my era, all the umpires were, Joe West finally retired, but, I mean, those guys are old and they've been doing it for a long time. So they've had to rotate some newbies through, and there's some growing pains. Obviously, it's just like anything else when the league goes young. But, I'd like to keep it as best we can. I think that takes the human element out of it. And I think maybe I'm wrong and people would disagree with me, and that's okay. But I think that's why we lean on sports, because of the human element. Because we don't know everything that's going to happen.
Right.
We're human. My son umpires college baseball, and and he'll tell the catcher, you know what, I missed that one.
Yeah.
I'll get the next one. I promise. And
yep.
It's the human aspect And I would hate to see that be taken away.
Yeah. Did you?
You'd be fine with taking Angel Hernandez away, though.
Yeah, he's got to go. He's got to retire.
Yeah, I think it's one of those tenured things where he's got so many years in that they can't get rid of him. But I don't know how that works. I have no idea. But holy cats! And I am the last guy to usually yell at an official or a coach. But holy cats, he's had some. Like, what is he looking at?
Yeah, scary.
He needs his eyes checked.
Yeah, that's probably right.
So back to your. I don't know if I heard your story right. Did you say there is the kid from Dunlap is in the majors umpiring?
Yes, Alex Johnson. Yep.
He's only 25.
I think he may be 26 by now, but I think when he broke in, he was 23 or 24. But yeah, he.
So what do you know what is the I don't know what the major league umpire process is. So how did a kid at 23, 24, or whatever get into major league umpiring that quick?
Well, you go down to those camps. They cost you dearly, but if that's your goal, you go down to those camps in Florida and Arizona that are run by retired officials, like the Windlestat camps down there. And if you're good enough, it's just like anything else, that when my son graduated from police academy, they ranked the top 7-8 recruits, Well, they do that at those camps for umpires too. Well, then once that happens, then you become a minor league umpire. And that doesn't pay a whole lot, like in Peoria and the Quad Cities. But as you move up the chain a little bit, you get into AA, and it's just like the major leagues. You get into AA, you got a shot. You get to AAA, you got a better shot. Obviously, it's just like that. But yeah, it's just like a player. They gradually, the better you get, you're evaluated. They have a guy that evaluates officials, and and they move them up just like they would players. Hey, this kid's, ready for AAA. We're moving him up. And they do that just like they do in the big leagues. They have a supervisor of officials and coordinator of minor league officials and stuff like that. So, my son's got the call a couple times to do a couple minor league games and things like that. So, it's he just hasn't done the camp, and for whatever reason, I don't think he could do that at this stage of his career. But, it looks a lot alike.
Yeah. All right. I didn't know for sure what that process was, and good for that kid for moving up that quickly. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
All right. Coach Parsons, we're gonna get into some questions for you now. We're at that point of the episode. So I know you said early in the podcast you didn't keep track of win-loss, but you did send me the stuff that your wife and your son had on you. So we mentioned it. You coached Kewanee Wethersfield basketball for 19 seasons, accumulated 360 wins, 5 regional titles, averaged 18 wins a season. Also baseball coach for 10 years. That's Anawan Wethersfield, right? You guys
correct.
Co-op?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Anawan Wethersfield, 187 wins, 4 regional titles as a baseball coach. Again, averaging 18, just under 19 wins a season as a baseball coach. So, and then as we mentioned, I posted on the Facebook that Illinois Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame. So obviously you had a great career coaching, and it did a lot of nice things when you were at those schools. So one thing I found interesting looking at those and looking at your seasons, as a basketball coach, you only had 2 losing seasons in 19 seasons at Wethersfield. And that's a 1A school. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
So my question is, at those smaller schools, you it's not like a bigger 4A, 5A type school where you kind of just are bringing in dudes all the time, and you kind of just are getting what you coach what you got, right? At 1A. So how did you instill that winning culture into your basketball teams or over the years to make sure you didn't have those losing seasons?
That's a great question, and people ask me that a lot, and I guess my answer to that is I was prepared when I was coaching that year for the next year. So in 2014, we were 30-3, and we got beat 1 game from state, and I had 5 really good seniors, and I had an all-state guard, and I had an honorable mention all-state guard, and but I could have started a senior in the post, but I started a sophomore, and then my first guy off the bench was a sophomore. So when we came back, we lost 85% of our scoring, but when we came back the next year, instead of, you hear some coaches talk about, well, we're just going to be bad this year. These kids aren't ready. Well, it's your job to get them ready.
Right.
So that next year we were 16-14, and I thought we didn't win 30, and I'm very critical of myself, but I thought that was one of the better coaching jobs I ever did, because we lost 2 All-Staters and 80% of our scoring. And then we wanted to reload, not rebuild. And so that's kind of the gist of the whole thing. And it's programmable. And, I had complete control all the way down to kindergarten through 12. And we had a first, second, third, and fourth grade program that we housed at our place that I'm very, very proud of. They went away with and are going back to it this year with their new coach. We had a 6-week unit where our kids would referee and coach and teach our youth. So to me, that was the greatest thing we ever did. Now, we started that when I first got there. So there were games late in my career. I thought, wow, we're winning these games because of the consistency, and then I would give my youth coaches, specific things every year I wanted them to accomplish. They need to know this by 7th grade, 8th grade. And I always told my junior high coaches, I said, you have to run my stuff. If I come down here and see you not running my stuff, I'm going to find somebody else. And a lot of my youth coaches were my former players, and they look at me and they'd just kind of laugh. Coach, we don't know anything else. We only played for you, so we're going to run your stuff. So I was fortunate, and my 3 high school assistants were former players too. And then, in the early years, they were colleagues that I'd either coached against and had a lot of respect for, and guys that, we kind of clicked. So, it's just consistency. It was relationship based. Dr. Hogue called me and offered me this job in Fulton, and I asked him, and he said, Jeff, you know me, I don't know you. I'm like, oh boy, what happened? What night was I running up and down the sidelines making an idiot of myself? And but his son Noah played for Morrison, and we played Morrison every year, non-conference and then theory tournament. He says, I've never seen a coach get on a kid like you do, and then the next minute you're hugging him. And he said, I've never seen a team play as hard as yours did. And that was it. I always told my guys, I said, you can control 2 things. You can control your effort, you can control your attitude. If those aren't in check, I don't care who you are, you're not playing. Like I saw, I was watching highlights of Sports Center this morning, and I saw they went back and were talking about LeBron or something, and I saw him throwing a hissy fit, stomping his foot and yelling at his coach. I mean, he might be the greatest player in the NBA right now, but I would have taken him out. I probably would have been fired on the spot. I don't care. But that's just who we are. And the kids knew it too. And it's all about, as you well know, it's when you tell them something, kids aren't stupid. I mean, no. Some adults think kids are stupid. They're not stupid. They're very smart. And if you tell them you're going to do something and you don't follow with that, then you build doubt in their mind with you. So you may say something, you're like, oh man, you got to follow through with that, even if you think wise that that's not the right decision. And if you do, then it becomes transparent and say, hey, here's what I thought, here's what I want to do now. And kids love that stuff. And I was also very fortunate to coach some very good players. I always told my junior high coaches, I said, I'll teach them to guard in 5 minutes. I said, you have to develop offensive skills. They have to be able to dribble. They have to be able to pass. And you need to spend at least half your practice on shooting. So that's it in a nutshell. So,
yeah. You go ahead, JP.
No, what I really like from what you were saying is talking about the youth and how you controlled that. And not that we haven't had some people on here that have had that involvement, but really not that much, where it's more of like, hey, we just want kids out. But it's exactly what you said. Like, if they haven't developed those offensive skills, basketball, a layup, a jump shot, ball handling, by the time they get there, how do you catch them back up? So I think like they're like that youth program, that's huge because I feel like you guys should have that involvement. Like you said, you guys can do the rest at practice, but you're going to run these specific things because they have to master these things. That way, when they get to you guys, you know that they're ready and they fit the mold and what you're trying to accomplish. And I feel like maybe that's not that other coaches aren't doing that, but to have that mentality, that probably attributes to why you've had that much success. So that to me is, yeah, because I felt like that when we were kind of growing up, that's kind of how it was. You had, you wanted those guys there at the lower levels, being told like, hey, what direction do we want this to go? Now, do you guys think it's more now like, yeah, we just want kids out and we'll pick up the slack later? Because I feel like you'd be really playing from behind at that point.
Yeah, you're totally right. And we never had any trouble with numbers. We only had 100. When I first got there, we had 205 kids, and we were down to 170 when I left. But we'd have 30 to 35 kids out every year, and boys. And we had a full freshman squad. We had a JV squad. We had a sophomore, fresh soft team. We had a varsity. And practices, we had split practices. They were intense. At the first 2 weeks of the year, I would have my fresh soft with me so that they could get the verbiage and watch, because it's big from junior high to varsity. That speed is here's how hard we have to play. Well, I'm not sure I can do that. Well, I'm not sure I can play it. Well, I want to play. Okay, well, we got to do that. I mean, it's pretty simple, and I had a state championship coach tell me, and again, I've said it one time already, I'll say it again. I played for Coach Anderson, Bob Anderson at Williamsfield, 700 wins, took him to state in 96. Just a phenomenal coach. I mean, I was average player at best, and we got beat one game for state my senior year, and just a phenomenal guy, X's and O's, and fundamental guru. And I mean, obviously he coached at a school with 80 kids. He had 700 wins, Class A. So, I mean, when I was in school 85 years ago, well, it wasn't that long. It was a long time ago. Coit wasn't born, but we would play Rock Ridge, Sherrard, all the big schools were 8 times our size and beat them. We couldn't even do 2-line layups. We didn't have enough kids. And we just go out and just compete. And, that's another thing too. And everybody's like, well, we just want numbers and all this other stuff. But kids want to be successful. So if you've got a program, and I guess I didn't realize that. I only had 2 losing seasons, but kids always want to be a part of it because they want to be associated with winning, And when it becomes too hard, they're like, well, at least we're winning. When it becomes too hard and they're losing, they're like, well, I don't know about this, Then the quitting mindset comes in.
100%. Yeah. Good. Speaking of Williamsville, you and my math teacher, Miss Riley, in high school, classmates, right?
Yes.
Classmates. Yeah.
She was our basketball manager, and she was,
nice.
She's phenomenal. She was awesome. So she always took care of us and did a good job. Nice. And it's funny how that we always get confused a little bit with Williamsville and Williamsfield. Ville's down by Springfield, and Field is between Galesburg and Peoria, so on 150 there, a little town and stuff. But they're she was from there. And then I guess I didn't know that. It might have been when I was the AD at Weathersfield for years, and GCMS came up and played us in football. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think A-Dub, there was a 3-year stretch where A-Dub was the only team that beat them within a 3-year stretch.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's when my son played. But anyway, so to keep track of her. And then, of course, I'm going brain dead right now. He's a good friend of mine, but I can't think of his name. The basketball coach. He was my IBCA coach a couple years ago.
Tompkins, Coach
Ryan.
Tompkins.
Yeah. And I kept track of Susan through him and stuff like that. So he's a good guy. And
we had him on podcast.
Yeah, I watched that. That was awesome. So he was. I selected him to be our IBCA North coach a couple years ago after he had that good run. And it was much like me. He's like, I don't know if I deserve that. I said, you do. You've done a great job, and I want you to coach it. And and being an IBCA board member and being, in charge of the 1A, 2A North All-Star team. And that's been good too. I'm still able to do that with my role as principal and AD now, and fortunate to be able to give back to the kids that work hard to be recognized.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I had to get a shout out to Miss Riley there. But one other thing I want to go back to on your answer to my question. So you said that you would have the high school kids kind of doing more or less kind of like a clinic with the younger kids and officiating and stuff like that. I think that's huge too, because I mean, like for football is a little different, but we have obviously like our youth camp, and I basically have the high school kids run that. Like they'll do all the drills with the kids. They're coaching them in the game aspect of it and all that, and I think that like connection, that kind of culture, just gets kids excited, especially younger kids, youth kids, and gets them wanting to go. And then they kind of see the high school kids in a different light, other than them playing on a basketball court or on the football field. And those little kids look up to them and they remember that thing. I mean, I remember when I was a little kid, the guys I watched, playing football and basketball, and still remember it to this day, So I got a son, obviously 9-year-old son, Knox, who looks up to all those guys and wants to like kind of be like them and gets to talk to them. So I think that's huge in building that and kind of seeing that. So I appreciate you saying that. And that was kind of cool how you had handled that situation there.
Yeah, we always had them behind our bench. They'd sit on the stage. Our bench was in front of the stage. They'd sit behind it. And, it was just a huge culture thing. And, they look at those kids and idolize them. And the other good part of it is, I don't want to belabor the point, but, I'd have kids come up to me and I'd just stand in the middle and kind of supervise and watch them run it and teach them and help them do things. And I'd have kids come up, "Hey, coach, I told this kid to do something. He didn't listen." And I said, "You mean that the other night when you called that play and you didn't run it and I had to take you out?" "Oh, yeah, I remember that." Or they're refereeing, and they're like, "Oh, it's so hard to see everything from that angle." And I said, "You never remember when you got upset the other night when you thought that official missed that call?" I said, "They're only human." I said, "Now you see that." So I said, there's 3 things you can do on the basketball court. You can coach, you can play, and you can referee. What's your job? Don't be a ref. You're going to be sent by me. Play hard or you're going to be sent by me, and don't coach because that's my job. So right. It's basically, I again, to finish what I said earlier, I knew a state championship coach really well. And he always told me, "Jeff, don't complicate winning." And I never understood that because I was a young coach. And then once I figured out what that was, things just started rolling. Keep things simple. The KISS theory, everybody said it for years, but it's really true. Keep it simple, stupid. It really works.
JP, I know you think you got some questions. You want to fire away?
No, did you kind of hit on everything on?
I mean, there's a couple more I was going to ask, but I didn't know if you had any.
No,
go ahead.
I promise I'll give shorter answers so you guys can answer more questions. I know I talk a lot.
Man.
No, you're good. No,
you're doing great.
No.
Keep rolling. So another question I had. So obviously, you've coached great athletes, and you have I'm gonna probably butcher his last name, but the Quagliano kid, that's playing third base for the University of Illinois, is tearing it up right now. For obviously D1 baseball player. You have a former player who's like a private hitting instructor for some Major League Baseball players, that kind of thing. So obviously you've coached some great athletes. In your mind, what sets apart those type of great athletes from the rest, and how do you get the other guys to kind of follow what they're doing?
They what made them great was they were leaders. So if you, and we've seen these quotes all the time, and it's funny what comes across social media. It's like stuff that I've said for years, it seems like, but had no source of social media to post anything. Not that I made these up, but a coach-led team will be good. A player-led team will be great. And that's how we were. I mean, Colton, you mentioned him. He was a natural leader. Kids followed him. He walked into the gym at that youth league, and it was like, it was like Michael Jordan walked in. He was the Wethersfield version of Michael Jordan, and they just stare at him and look at him, and he was just that kid. You know, he was our FCA leader. What sets those kids, you know, and Trey Hannum, that I coached in basketball and baseball. That's the pro hitting coach. He was the youngest hitting coach, the New York Mets, minor league hitting coach of the New York Mets. And then he got married and they settled down and have a family. So he wasn't able to travel. You know, those guys travel a lot and don't make what the players make, obviously. But so he has a complex in the Quad Cities and flies in pros. He also has full access to Chicago and Wrigley, and he's been to University of Illinois, University of Iowa. He goes different places and works with kids. And he just got back working with Nolan Gorman down in St. Louis. And they actually offered him the hitting job with the Cardinals, and he turned it down. They've offered it to him twice, 2 years ago, and then this past year when they just hired Ward. But he just does really good. What separates those kids are their work ethic. They were never outworked. Colton was a 3-time basketball stater, 2-time football, and baseball's the hardest to get. And they only give 10 a year, and he was all-state his senior year. But in 7th grade, they won the IESA state basketball championship. And I'm going to tell 2 quick stories, and this will kind of wrap everything together. The night before the state championship, he came to the end of varsity practice. And he says, Coach, can I use the shooting machine after practice? I said, no problem. I've got to break down film. I didn't have speedy internet at home that time. And so I was sitting at the scores table, just breaking down film and watched him shoot. And he shot over 1,000 shots in about a 2-hour period. And I finally had to shut the lights off and get him home because I wanted him to have some legs for the state championship the next night. To follow that up, in the semifinals on that Saturday, they beat a team out of Chicago that had 2 kids going to Simeon because Wethersfield was 2A that year, not 1A in ISA. And then they won the state championship pretty handily. In fact, it was tied at halftime, and my assistant, the kid that I coached, looked at him and goes, hey, Colt, you're going to need to score for us to win. Okay. So he has 20 points in 6 minutes in the third quarter. And in a junior high game, and he is just that way. And so they're up 20, and the subs are playing in the fourth quarter. And so the bench is sitting down, and he's sitting down at the end of the bench, and the other 4 starters were messing around, and he was sitting there. And I was sitting behind the bench with my assistants. And he says, they're screwing around. He gets up and he looks at him. This kid's in 7th grade, mind you. And he looks at me and goes, they have supported us all year. This is their time to shine. We are going to sit down, pay attention to the game. We're going to root these guys on because we would not be in this situation if it wasn't for them. And the hair stands up the back of my neck every time I tell that story because it's just phenomenal. And had I not seen it and heard it, I would have never believed it. But with him, I would have. But I turned to my assistants. I said, did you hear that? And they go, yeah, I did. I go, that is special. So when he came into high school, I sat down with him and his dad, and of course he had offers to go to here we're talking about high school, junior high kid offers. He'd been recruited by Assumption and Alleman, and Assumption had told him that he'd get drafted out of high school if he came there in baseball. And that's, I don't know if that's public or not, but it just is. Anyway, it is now. So but I sat him and his dad down, and he said, Coach, the only reason we're here is for you. He wanted to play with you. He wanted to play for you, and he wanted to be a Goose. He said, if he plays, he plays. He does it, he does it. You won't hear anything from me. So very supportive parents, and I made him earn it, and he did, and he was a 4-year starter. But, you know, that kind of tells you what those kids are about. You know, the Trey Hannums and the Nathan Kohlers was the all-time leading scorer at Wethersfield that I coached in 2009. And Trevor Lay, I know I've talked to you about, you know, he scored 1,000 points his senior year, and we win 30 games. I mean, what do all those kids have in common? They're great athletes. They're great leaders. Kids follow them, and they're coachable, and they're about the team first. You know, and you mentioned Colton's having a great – he's second on the team in home runs. He's first in RBIs by 8. He's third in average. I mean, he's made 2 ESPN plays at third just in the last 2 weeks. And he's a true junior. You know, he's not redshirted, or he hasn't used a COVID year either. And And whenever I call, I talk to him at least 2 times a week, and we text every day. And, the thing that, he's got a 19-game winning hitting streak. These stats are all, he's leading their team. He's in a Power 5 conference in the Big Ten, and they're leading the Big Ten. I mean, they're winning the Big Ten right now. And only thing he ever wants to talk to me about when I talked to him on the phone was he was disappointed before he got on the plane today because they lost 2 out of 3 to Maryland. Had nothing to do about his win streak or hit streak and leading this category, leading that category. All he ever cared about was making his team better and winning. And when you have that, you got something special.
Yeah. That story when Quagliano was in 7th grade, that's pretty wild. That just the maturity for 7th graders usually aren't that mature, to understand that. And for him to step up and do that, that's pretty impressive right there.
His family raised him right. He was our FCA leader, and I saw him give a eulogy to his mom's best friend that passed of cancer. And I mean, there's so many things outside the court that I've seen that kid do and outside the field that are amazing. And when he does the stuff on the field, and, of course, he's Weathersfield, and everybody's like, well, he's too small. Well, his exit below. Oh, and so everybody's like, are you surprised what he's doing now? No, not at all. Kid's a winner, and he'll do whatever it takes. If he has to stay in the cage till his hands are bloody, he'll do it. And it's real simple. I mean, and that you ask, and I don't mean to belabor the point, but that's the it factor. We always talk about it. Find the kids that have the it factor. And it may not be the kid that's the best athlete. It may be the kid that has the it factor that's going to work harder and bring everybody else up. I've had those kids as well too. And that makes your whole team better, and a lot of times in our society, we see, well, here are my 5 best players, or here are my 11 best players, or here are my 9 best players. I never ever looked at it that way. What 11, what 5, what 9 played well together. There may be people that have doubted me. Well, this kid's better than that kid, but do they gel? Do they play well together? Because that's ultimately it. It's all about wins. And, when you have that and you have kids at that level, then you got something. It's, and if you, and I don't want to say use the word preach because I'm not a preacher, but when you talk about that, it's what you emphasize. It's not what you teach. They don't remember what you teach. They remember what you emphasize. So pick 2 or 3 things and then boom, go, and same way in my job now. What am I emphasizing? Culture, discipline, academics, athletics. Pretty simple.
Absolutely, yeah.
I said I'd shut up, but I don't do that very well, guys. Sorry.
No, you're doing great. That's a great answer. JP, you got a question?
So Coach Parsons, so kind of switch gears to coaching, and now you're in an admin role. I'm assuming you probably have a lot to do with hiring of, obviously personnel. It's probably changed over the years for you, maybe coaching, because, you've been a part of that for 30 plus years. But what's the number one thing you look for in a coach when you're hiring, in this generation? What's that quality characteristic that you're looking for when they're sitting down at the table, trying to sell themselves to you as why they want to be the head varsity baseball coach or football coach? What are you looking for?
Connectability with kids, because it doesn't matter. And I've said this for years and before our society, and I don't say our society has changed, but people say, well, we've changed. We expect less out of our kids. I don't expect less out of our kids. My approach is different. I expect the same exact thing I always have for 30 years. My approach is different than it was 30 years ago. Do what I say. I'm the coach. It's not that way anymore.
Right.
So it's relationship based. Can they get to kids? Can they? And I've said that even about teachers. I would rather put a good person in front of our kids than the next John Wooden or Mike Ditka or, whoever, whoever your favorite coach is. And if they're good people and they can get to kids, you can teach them the other things that they need to know. I've got a lot to learn from the academic side as a principal, and I'm working on that daily, Why? Because I know that's something I need to work on. But I have a great staff, veteran staff, and I let them do their job and I support them. And if they come to me, I'll give them my advice. They may not like it or they may use it. That's up to them. But it's connectability with kids these days. It's totally, when I was younger, 25 years ago as an AD, I always want, okay, does this guy know X's and O's? Can he get this across? How's he command a huddle? How's he do this? How's his practice structure? How's he deal with parents? How's this? That's all icing on the cake. Your cake is your connectability with kids.
Yep.
And I hate the statement, and Coach Coit will agree with me, but if kids don't like you, they won't listen to you. Now, I'm not out as high school principal and AD to try to find 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old friends. I got plenty of friends.
Right.
So, but they understand that what I'm telling them is best for them, and that's how you have to deal with it. If they know that you're working for them, they understand that stuff. And so, and that goes back to the coaching part, JP, that you talked about, and the teachers. If they know you care about them, and support them, they're going to do a much better job. And I thought we've had 2 hirings this year for next year already, and they were both, in my mind, home runs for our district. And why? Because exactly what you talked about, people person, they connect. They connect, that you call their references. How do they get along with adults? Oh, great. How do they get along with kids? Oh, kids really respect them. They like them. Okay. Now we're working with something. Now we were lucky enough to get somebody that was really, really good on the science end that has their master's, and that's the icing on the cake. So now you're going from a good teacher to a great teacher, but putting good people in front of kids. To me, that's all it is. You can teach everything else. Yep. You can have a mentor. You can have a mentor for a coach, a teacher, anybody. If you got a good person in your program or school or whatever, and you can teach them what you want them to know, but you can't teach them personal social skills. They're born with that, and they adapt that as they get older.
Yep.
And those are usually set by the time I get them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you think everything we do. I mean, it's everything that people do in the sector dealing with people. It is about how you treat them and how you connect with them. I mean, really as a whole, like you said, I'm sure 30 years ago it was more of like, like you said, you made the comment, you're going to do what I tell you to do. It doesn't matter, and it's kind of militaristic in a way, but it's not that way anymore. Like I said, for anything that we do in any teaching, law enforcement, public service, anything, like, it's all about like the relationships. If you foster those, I think, you get people you get the best out of them. You get the very best. Yeah.
And I asked my son, of course, I'm always coaching. I got to quit that. But I asked him when he graduated from the academy, and I said, give me 3 things you learned in these 16 weeks. Because I know it was a bear. It was tough, PT and logistics. And he said the thing that his leader taught him was, you don't have to show them the uniform and the badge. They see it.
Right.
You don't have to act like it. It's there. Yeah. You don't have to tell, hey, I'm a cop. You got to listen to me.
Right.
I'm the head coach. You got to listen to me. Hey, I'm your principal. You got to listen to me. I'm your athletic director. You got to listen to me. Because as soon as you say that, the volume's going all the way down, and they hear nothing that you're saying. And today's day and age with, being a police officer, even a teacher and all that stuff, it's different. The expectation's not, in my mind, but how we go about it is definitely different.
Yep. How we get it. Yeah. How you get them to do what you want them to do. You're just, like you said, the approach is a 180 from what it was 15, 20 years ago.
Easily.
Yep. I agree with you. Yeah.
Oh. Well, and it's the old, what I say, like, the kids don't care how much you know till they know how much you care about them, kind of thing. Is kind of the way I approach it. Like, I could be a complete tyrant, and a jerk, and telling them everything I know about football. But if I'm like that all the time, they don't care that I know all that. You know what I mean? But if I, like Coach Parsons is saying, if I'm connecting with them and building that relationship, and then I'm like, hey, telling them what I know, then they're going to do it. You know what I mean? Or they're going to respect it more. That's kind of the approach I go and deal with it. as well. So, yeah, good thought. Coach Parsons, can you see the comments rolling in or no?
No, I don't know if you know this. I'm not real tech savvy. So hold on.
Yeah, well, I'll read one because it's from Pete Tanzillo. I'm pretty sure he played at Kiwani. I'm pretty sure
He
right?
did. Yep,
And
very good
he
player.
said,
very good player.
yeah, he said, Coach Parsons, one of my favorite coaches to play against. Very genuine, very competitive. So
That's
Pete
awesome.
Tanzillo shouting out for you there.
Yeah, he was
Pete's
the
good, dude.
MVP of our Wally Keller Classic. Wally was a guy that coached in the late 60s, 70s, and early 80s, and was the all-time leading win coach until I was fortunate enough to beat him. And he's still alive today, and him and I have a great relationship. And Pete was the MVP of that Thanksgiving tournament, and he was phenomenal. So I didn't even realize he was at Northeast.
Yeah.
And then he came up and at a volleyball game last year and it said, I don't know if I'm right about this or not, but I think he said his wife's from Fulton or played for Coach Gurman in volleyball. And we had a great talk last year. That was awesome. So, and now I'm going to have to go to Northeast because now we go to Northeast every year for volleyball because Coach Gurman likes to play 5 sets over there instead of 3 in Illinois. So if I was see Pete, I got to go over there. So that was that might have been at a basketball shootout. I can't remember, but yeah, it was great to see him. I didn't know he was in the area. That was awesome.
Yeah, Pete's a good dude. He's elementary PE teacher there now at Northeast. So
awesome.
Yeah, he does a great job.
Okay, now I'm seeing the comments.
Okay.
Susan Riley put a heart. Yeah, she's a special one. So I tell people I'm pretty techie, but not techie enough. So.
You showing your age again?
Don't ever say that again. Yes, I am. I'm just kidding. Yep.
Showing age, baby.
That's all good.
I feel better at 57 than I did when I was 37. So I know I've said that already, but it's all about, how you look at things, I guess, it's, I know a lot of old people at 57. I don't feel like I'm that guy. So
yeah,
it's good.
57 is the new 37.
Yes, right. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
All right, I got a couple more questions for you, Coach Parsons, and then we're going to get into our tier talk that we do at the end. So my first one is, and I'm just interested to see what you say to this. So what is your most overrated coaches talk, phrase, or word that coaches say often? What would you say what the most overrated phrase is, as a coach would say?
Play hard.
I was thinking that, play.
That's not your job to tell them that. They either play hard or they don't play, in my opinion. But that's an old school thing. If you have to tell them to play hard, then therefore they're not giving what they need to do, and they need to move on. Or you need to. And another thing, and I know you know this, Coach Coy, because you played for the Living Legend and coached with Coach Lower, who's also a living legend. We got one thing these kids want. One, that's playing time. And that's the only thing they want. That they don't care about anything else. They want to play, and the great ones want to help their teams. But really, for the most part, they want to play. And that's the only thing we have control of. We don't have control of anything else. Have I taken out a Colton Quagliano in a game? I took him out one night because he wasn't shooting enough. And I just told him, I said, we're not going to win unless you shoot. I said, I know you're unselfish. I know you'd rather give an assist, but we need you to score. And until you figure that out, you're going to sit by me. And he was the best player in the West Central Illinois, if not the state, at that time. So, and that's where I kind of lose it. Sometimes I think we're losing that. Well, this kid's really good. I can't take him out. Yeah, you can. You sure can. Yeah. No game is ever lost in a minute or 30 seconds. And maybe that's all that kid needs is that 30 seconds. Now, it's a little harder in baseball. But, with you and me, with football and basketball, we can do that from time to time just to say, hey, let's get a reset, So that's just my
sure. I agree. Play hard. That's a good one. Yeah. Because you shouldn't have to tell them to do that, right?
Correct.
Play hard. Yeah. Yeah. Not at
I will.
Not at high school.
Yeah, I will be honest. I do say that sometimes. I coach 7th grade basketball, but sometimes they need to be reminded of that. But
Yeah, there's
at
nothing wrong with
the
that.
high
Yeah.
school level, I'm not. I'm not.
And that
saying
was always part of our, and I don't want to say I didn't say it, but that was always part of our pregame. Here are our goals. We always play hard. We always play together. We're going to have
Yep.
fun, basic stuff like that. But if you're constantly saying that on the sideline, it might be time to look at somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Oh yeah.
100%. Another question, kind of fun question I have for you here, and you can share however you want, but either baseball or basketball or maybe both. Give us your best, because I'm sure you have gotten technicals, in 19 years of coaching basketball, and maybe I don't know if you've been thrown out of a baseball game or not, but give me your best technical story or umpire story from your coaching days.
Baseball, I never ever got tossed. And when I was younger, I was a little bit more I had a little bit more antic to me. And now that, as I got older and we had the official shortage, I kind of got away from that. But one night it was conference championship was on the line, and we were playing at Princeville. And I always had the LTC, Lincoln Trail coaches, tell me in our conference, and I had been there a long time, as long as tenured coach. And they're like, I can't believe you've never been thrown out of Princeville. I go, why? You never have any problems over there. Why? Were you guys go looking for me? He goes, nope. Every LTC coach at some point in their career gets thrown out of Princeville. I go, I don't know what you're talking about. So we go over there like a year and a half later. And there was I had a 6'8" kid that went to Augie, Jake Scherbrock, and he went up for a layup in a close game in the fourth quarter, and I thought he got hit on the arm, and they didn't call anything. I thought he really got hit. It kind of was a momentum turner. So the referee runs by, and I said, hey, can you protect my shooter? Wasn't annex or anything or not, and he turned around and gave me a warning. So I'm like, okay. I go, what are you warning me for? I didn't say anything. I just asked a question. You can answer it. No big deal. And then the trail official comes behind me, and he goes, what's going on, Jeff? And I go, well, I was just talking to so-and-so there, and he warned me, and I was just asking him a question. He looks at me and he goes, I've heard enough out of you. You're out of here.
Oh,
He threw you out?
Yeah.
you out?
Oh my
So you
God.
didn't even get a technical, but you got thrown out?
Yeah. So I'm like, so then they didn't administer the technicals. So they ended up administering the technicals. They hadn't done that yet because it was reversible. You could go back and change that. And so I'm like, holy cat. So I did, of course, the whole right up to the IHSA and all this other stuff. But, it is what it is. And I told my kids, I said, I got to be better. And they're like, well, coach, you really didn't say anything or do anything. I go, I understand that. But apparently they, coach officials are human. They have bad days like we have bad days sometimes. But, it's always, you got to realize that sometimes I get caught up in the heat of the moment and stuff like that. But yeah, it's so that was the hardest thing I ever had to do was get the gym set up the next Friday night. You're in Illinois, you have to set a game. So
Yeah.
My assistant and we got all ready to go and played Stark County. It was our huge rival, and I left the gym to go to Anawan to scout, and because we played them the following Tuesday, and that was one of the hardest things I'd ever had to do, and I vowed I'd never do that again because I put my kids in a bad situation, not having their coach there. I mean, we won big. My assistant did a great job, but I always told my assistants, I always give them a lot of leeway in practice and make them run drills because I always said if something ever happened to me, I don't want the program to suffer. I'm not that. There are a lot of guys that everything they do is them because they know that it's their backside if things aren't going well. But I just had everybody involved. Everybody had their role. I had an assistant was in charge of out of bounds plays, and an assistant kept track of fouls and free throws and who to foul, and another assistant in charge of offense. And, I obviously had to say, but, they would say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And, don't be afraid to say no, but and tell them why. But, that was very difficult. So that was funny that you brought that up. So
Yeah, it sounds like you got Aaron Booned.
yeah. That's crazy.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Of course, everybody, sometimes my antics on the sideline, I was just very into the game, or my emotions on my sleeve. And I've had Coach Lower as an official numerous times. And we always talk about that. He goes, you never ever bothered me because I knew you were very, a very excitable guy, and you're into the game, and your kids played hard, and you're having fun. And, but I had never seen, I'd coached for almost 25 years when that happened. And never seen those guys before. So you're thinking, wow, they obviously didn't know me and I didn't know them. And that's okay. We got to learn from that. So
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Tossed without getting teed up.
Yeah, it's nuts.
You don't have any good baseball umpire stories quick, or?
I actually do. I had we won 4 straight regional baseball titles, which was huge at that time. The first one we won, we started 6 freshmen, and actually we had 7 freshmen, sophomores that we started, and won a regional and made it to the sectional. Got beat 1 game for state. Really young team, and that team progressed and won 4 straight regionals. And it always seems like we got into the sectional and got to the final, and we'd run against some kid that was either going to Western or really, played really well. But anyway. So one night we were at home, and I had my pitching coach, and he was sitting on a bucket, and he would call pitches, and I would align the defense, and he on what he would call. And so the umpire, and Dave was kind of barking at him a little bit, and the umpire took his mask off, and he said, Jeff, if you don't get him under control, he's not going to be in this game any longer. And I said, I'll take care of it. No problem. And then my pitching coach looked at him and said, that's the best call you've made all night.
Yep, that's no good. Yeah.
Yep. And there he went. So there I was calling pitches. And so it wasn't me, but it was my assistant. He's like, man, I'm so sorry, but he was so inconsistent. I just wanted to let him know. And, we normally, and I've never, ever, I always told our kids, you can't umpire, you play, you don't coach, you don't umpire. And, those guys, now they're making really good money, but back then they weren't really making much to do that. But now we have to pay them a really, really good wage just to get them. So,
right.
But yeah, that's, I really tried to spend less time on the older I got, I wanted to spend less time on the officials, because my 700 win, I know I've referred to him 3 times. Coach Anderson told me one night when I got a technical, we were over in his tournament one year when I was a young coach. And he was a great friend, great mentor. And he looked at me and he goes, Jeff, what do you get paid to do? And I was like, what is he talking about? And he was older, and I thought, man, is he losing his mind or something, or what's going on? I go, I'm paid to coach. He goes, exactly. Are you paid to referee? I said, nope. He goes, don't referee. He says, focus on your kids. That's what you get paid to do. And you owe it to them to be the best version of yourself every night. So I just took that, and I'm like, okay, slam dunk. Here we go. Heck with that stuff. So never too old to learn.
Yeah. And one less thing to worry about for yourself.
Absolutely.
Because I could see, like I said, there's just so many things you can't control in athletics. And like I said, if you focus on just said to coach, that's a lot off your plate. And, you just focus on what you have to do, and the rest of it's going to happen, whether you want it to happen or not.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. And that, that goes back to culture thing, what are you focusing on?
Right. I just don't know about getting tossed like that, though, in that basketball game. I'm not sure how I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to make this worth the toss. But then you do that because of the kids, and what's that going to look like if you look like
I didn't exactly walk out right away. I kind of got, I said a little bit, and just said, I kind of said, now I feel like I should earn this. I feel like I've earned it, And
yeah.
So I get in the hallway, and the AD's in there, and of course I give him an earful, and he's known me forever and a great guy. And he goes, I understand, Jeff. I understand. So, and once I got that out of the way, I was fine. So, but
that's crazy.
Like Coach Coyd, have you ever been tossed out anything?
I have not.
Never?
Nope. I've been when I was assistant for Coach Lower in Fulton, I I got a couple sideline warnings because I was just, young coach that would get way too excited, and I'd get on officials a little bit. I'd get a couple sideline warnings, but as a head coach, I've gotten a couple sideline warnings, but I've never been tossed. Probably should have been tossed actually in one game this past year, but I didn't. I was I think I might have said this on here, but we were playing Monticello and they got Preston Reese, who's going to Iowa for football, at linebacker, quarterback, and just a stud, 4-year starter there. And he took our quarterback as a sideline play, and he literally took Buckley, our quarterback, and kind of like ragdoll tossed him, and he was already out of bounds, and it was on our sideline, and it was like on the 15-yard line. We can only go to the 25. So the refs didn't call anything. I mean, it was a late hit, and it was completely unnecessary, and they didn't call anything. And I ran like out to the sideline guy, and a parent had a picture, and I'm literally like, I'm like this close to his face screaming at him. And then the back judge comes running up, and he's taking me away. And then finally the flag comes out, and then they ended up calling a late hit, but they didn't call it until I ran out on the field. And then I got a sideline warning, which I probably should have been gone, but
ejected.
But that's the only time that I've like completely come unglued. I've actually, as Ty Teisman commented there, he's like, I was just a hyper and excited for the kids as a younger coach. Obviously no harm in that, but I've definitely, as the head coach now, I got to kind of rein it in a little bit at times. I still will ask officials questions and get on them sometimes, but not near as bad as what I was when I first started as head coach or when I was a young assistant. But like Coach Parsons says, you just got to coach your kids, right? You don't have to worry about what the officials do. They're going to make calls, and they're going to be wrong sometimes. We make bad calls as coaches too, so and sometimes people let us know too, but and the refs aren't going to usually reverse their calls anyway, so you might as well just live with it, and you can question it respectfully, but just got to deal with it.
Save the energy for something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's easy, but it's easy to say that now because you're not worked up, you're not in the moment.
Yeah, and it is, and I think, I mean, I've been an assistant for basketball for a while, and football, I mean, obviously there's emotions in every sport, but football, I think emotionally can take you over more than other sports. I think it's just more of an emotional type sport, So yeah, there are times where I have to do a better job controlling my emotions, but like I said, I think I've reined that in a little bit over the years, and I don't know, hopefully continue to do that, but yeah,
you're a humble guy.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to get into our tier talk, guys?
Yeah,
unless Coach JP, do you got any other questions for Coach P?
No, I'm excited for this will be I think this is my favorite tier talk of all 14 episodes.
Okay. Hey, before I just saw this pop up on my phone, but before I get into the tier talk, Coach Parsons, I got something for you.
Okay.
My wife just sent me a text. My son's running a fever, so she's gonna have to stay home tomorrow from work. This is serious, by the way. Like, yeah,
that's perfectly fine.
Okay,
yeah, I appreciate that.
All right, no problem.
I think as good a teacher as your wife is, I think that you need to stay home with him.
Well, I probably would, but I'm going to a strength and conditioning conference tomorrow that I signed up for, and I've already got a check for. So
I get it. Yep, not a problem.
All right, yeah.
You want me to text get a sub right now?
Sure. If you want to text her, get a sub, whatever you got to do.
Got it.
Look at that, taking care of official business on the podcast here.
Wow. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
Yes. You're a great administrator. All right. So
You
Tier
suck it
talk.
up there, huh?
JP, you're saying this is your favorite one so far?
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So Coach Parsons, our tier talk, we all will come up with our list of our top coaches of all time, and JP and I usually do like our era. So I didn't see John Wooden coach, so he's not on my list. Obviously, he's one of the greatest coaches ever. But we'll go through our list, and then after we're done, each person has to give a one-word response for the list that they create. So, who wants to go first?
Coach Parsons, you want to go first?
Sure. That sounds good to me. I was giving this a lot of thought because I just, you want me to give all three?
Yeah,
You
go like
you can
3,
start.
2, 1,
Okay.
or your
I would
third best.
say, yeah. I mean, there's like the greatest coach that I've ever met could have coached in the high school and pro level, and that was my high school coach. But I know it's college and pro. So the first guy that I want to talk about, it just passed away actually, because I know I'm a Cardinal fan, but that was Whitey Herzog. I thought that he took with minimal talent in the 80s and should have won 3 World Series championships. They got beat in 87 and 85. They won it in 82, but he was phenomenal. I mean, it was a brand of baseball that was unique, and guys played hard, and it was just amazing. And the second would probably be of my era would be Roy Williams, because he's just won at Kansas, won at I followed college basketball a lot, and he was just the statue of greatness, and everybody's like, well, Mike Krzyzewski and all that other stuff, but I think he was a great coach as well, especially when he stepped down there about 10 years ago with that illness, and they went down a little bit. They did take a step back, I think, since he's retired, but they get the best players in the nation every year, and sometimes that's harder, but I'm very partial to Roy Williams, because in 2017 we took our basketball team at Wethersfield down to Florida and played in the Wally Keller Classic. And Roy Williams came in because Tony Bradley was in that shootout, and he was recruiting him, and he flew in, and the gym just stopped. The game stopped when he walked in. It was like, Jesus and parting of the Red Sea. So it was crazy. And he stayed after that game and signed every autograph for every one of our players and talked to my coaches for the longest time. And he had to get back to the airport and fly back to North Carolina. And I mean, it was just phenomenal. He was up there, but then he really soared after that. And then my last one is, you guys can be like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. But it's more recent. That's Brad Underwood, because I've gotten a chance through the IBCA to meet him, and he knows my cousin Jack really well. And I've been out to lunch with him a couple times and been down to talk to him through the IBCA. He sat by me last year at the Hall of Fame banquet, and we had a great talk. And I just think he has done a phenomenal job with Illinois. And I know they lost 7 of their top 8 this year, but you wait, they will reload. Yeah. They've opened the portal and done some great things. And he is grounded. A lot of those D1 guys are not. He is grounded because he spent 11 years as an assistant at Western Illinois under Jim Kerwin. So when you're at Western for 11 years as an assistant, and then he finally got his break, he went to junior college, and then he did really well there for a year, and then he got hired at Kansas State, and it was over from then. Went to Stephen F. Austin, Oklahoma State, and Illinois. But he's told me Illinois is his dream job. I was really worried when Calipari left and his name was getting thrown around. I thought, oh, no, please, because I was distraught when Bill Self left for Kansas, because I thought Bill was good too. But yeah, that's kind of my tier. And, there's probably people that could argue that, but that's how I feel. You talk about, culture and players playing hard and holding them accountable. I think that Underwood does that. I think there's timeouts you see him in the huddle and he's really getting on them, and then the next minute he's going in the locker room doing a water gun fight with them, and
Yeah.
I mean that's what it's all about.
Nice. Stendo, what you got for
I'll
a
say
word?
quality for sure. I definitely like the Roy Williams one.
Yeah.
I'm not much. I wish college. I used to a little bit. I don't watch much college. I'm getting back into it. Mine's all been professional, but yeah, I like the Roy Williams pick.
And I thought about Phil Jackson too, because think about what he did. Taking the world's best player and all those attitudes with Rodman and got Jordan to understanding they needed to totally change offenses with the triangle and Tex Winter, and so I mean he's up there too, but. I just I don't watch. I did watch the Bulls a lot during that era. I just don't watch NBA anymore.
Right. Yep.
My word is Oski Wow because of the Illinois. I like it.
God.
I mean, at first I was like, yeah, this is a good list. And then once he brought up the Illinois Brad Underwood, my man, I like it a lot.
Fighting the Illini.
I got the Illinois basketball court on my backboard in the background here.
I see that. I love it.
Yeah.
We have Illinois season football tickets too. My wife and I do. She's
nice.
She's an Illinois graduate. So
I did not know that.
Yeah,
my buddy Mitch Phillips has got right. He lives right next to me here. He's got Illinois season tickets too.
That is a painful. I'm not lying. I love it, but it's been a painful 10 or 12 years at times. I think Bielema's on the right track. I hope so.
Yeah, that's awesome. JP, you want to go next or?
Yeah, I'll do it.
All
so right. I just did for you guys. I just did professional, but what I did was I picked from between basketball, baseball, and football. So I kind of picked, and again, my era. But number 3, I got. You'll like this, Coach Parsons, Tony La Russa. So he's my number 3. I got second all time in wins, 2,902 wins. Out of all the years coaching, he won over 50% of his games with every team he managed. White Sox, A's, Cardinals, 70 and 58 in the postseason, 3 World Series titles, 89, 06, and 11, 4-time manager of the year, 100% voting in the Hall of Fame. And he also took 10 years off coaching and then came back for the Sox and finished up that 2-year stint. So, and even I liked the Cardinals back in the day. I loved it when, Big Mac and, that era. But he's definitely – number 3, because I think he had 33 years coaching, I think, in MLB. So he's my number 3. Number 2, I'm going football. I got Bill Belichick. Kind of hard not to. 23 years, 298 wins, 302 in the regular season, 3rd all time, most all time in playoff wins, 31, 17 division titles, 9 Super Bowl appearances with 6 rings. And he's 2nd all time with total wins, including playoffs, behind Don Shula. And then number 1, Coach Parsons, you already mentioned him, Phil Jackson, because I was a big Bulls fan. I mean, ecstatic. I loved Jordan, Rodman, Pippen. Watched him as a kid, never missed a game. I mean, in that that span that they won 6 titles in 8 years, I never missed a game. WGN Channel 17, I was watching that every night. 20 years. He coached 20 years, and 11 of those he won a championship. And, he's got the regular season record, 1,155 wins, a 704 winning percentage, most career playoff victories, 229, and obviously championships, 6 with the Bulls and 5 with the Lakers. Just to me, I don't know if in the NBA, I don't watch it anymore once in a great while, but what he's done or what he did do, I don't know if anybody matches that. I mean, it's kind of like the Jordan GOAT debate. It's like, when is it? I mean, 20 years and you win 11 titles. I mean, like you said, people could say, well, he had a lot of great players. He had to manage a lot of different personalities.
Oh yeah. And I probably screwed up by not having him on there, but holy cats, he's the man. Yeah.
So I love watching, like you said, I remember Tex Winter run the triangle and Jordan. But he, like you said, I think when he had, Jordan and Rodman, Rodman was a tough guy to probably corral in. And I think what he was able to do with all those, when you have Jordan, who's the greatest player, I think what he was able to do and keep him in check and keep him on path, I think, Yeah. So he's my number one.
What's your word, Coach Parsons, for that list?
I only get one word.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You can hyphenate it if you want.
Yeah.
Last hyphenated dance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, that probably wasn't legal. I apologize.
No, that's good.
I like
I'll say excellent.
Wow.
Excellent.
Hold on. This is recorded. You said what?
Yeah, I said excellent. So I think this is the first time I've ever given you a great compliment on a list.
Wow.
That's your talk.
I'm
First time for everything.
I'm getting emotional. I'm getting
I'll
emotional.
hold it in for a little bit there,
I'm gonna let
All
you
right.
go. Let's hear
I'm gonna
your
go
list.
my list. All right. So I have an honorable mention.
You do. Really?
I do. I went. So when you mentioned your list to me, I changed mine up a little bit so we'd be a little different because I had some guys I was thinking of here. So my honorable mention is Bill Belichick. Obviously, as far as NFL coaches, he's probably one of the greatest or is the greatest of all time. Like Stenda said, 6 Super Bowl wins as head coach. That's the most of anyone. He also won 2 Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator. So I saw a stat. He's the only individual with 8 Super Bowl wins in the NFL. So he obviously did his job. His playoff record is the best ever. So he's up there. My number 3 is Coach K at Duke. I mean, I was never like a Duke fan, but I always respected what Coach K did. He coached at Duke for over 40 years. I think if I remember, yeah, he averaged 26 wins a year on 42 years, 36 NCAA tournaments. He has the most NCAA tournament wins as a coach, 13 Final Fours, 5 national championships. Just his list is just crazy. He has the most wins ever in men's division college 1 basketball. The Stanford women's coach Vander, I don't butcher her name, but she broke his all-time winning coach record this year. But he won 79% of his games as a college basketball coach, which I think is wild.
Crazy.
And the other thing is he also has 6 gold medals as a USA coach, whether assistant or head coach of that. So I thought that was interesting as well. But he's my number 3. Number 2 is Nick Saban. Nick Saban, he coached for 28 years as a head coach, never had a losing season in 28 seasons. He was 1 year at Toledo, I think 4 or 5 at Michigan State. LSU, I think 6, 7, and then 17 plus, I believe, 17 at Alabama. At Alabama, he was 206 wins and 29 losses in 17 seasons, which is just insane.
That's crazy.
They won 10 or more games in 16 straight seasons, which is also crazy. This stat was interesting. He has more first round NFL draft picks, or he's coached more first round NFL draft picks than he has losses at Alabama. He had 44 first round draft picks and 29 losses. So obviously good track record there. And my number 1, just like you, Stenda's Phil Jackson. The Zen master, obviously he was probably one of the greatest NBA coaches of all time. As we said, 11 NBA championships. I think Ty Tysman's alluding to it, that they let him go to Vegas and come back during the season and all that. But the other thing interesting, so his last 3 years with the Bulls, he wins championships, and then he takes a year off, and he comes to LA and wins 3 in a row at LA. So he won 6 championships in 7 years, and the 1 year he didn't win, he wasn't coaching. So what's that tell you there? So yeah, he was the dude. Triangle offense worked really well for the Bulls. Actually, when I was in Fulton, Rick Norman, head coach there, ran the triangle offense and learned a lot about the triangle offense there. So very interesting. Thought I was Tex winner at times, but good stuff. Phil Jackson, number 1. That's my list. What's your word?
I'm gonna say outstanding.
Ooh.
I like the college picks. I mean, like I said, that
Yeah.
I should have put a college coach in there, but God, that Saban. Thinking about that, that's crazy. And it's crazy that there are people in Iowa that think Kirk Ferentz is one of the. Come on, I mean, you put those stats up there, it's like
I should. And he has 7 national championships. I don't think I said that, but it's insane. 80% of his games he won at Alabama.
Yeah, outstanding.
Insane. You got a word for me, Coach P?
I got to dig deep here.
Okay.
Legendary.
Oh,
legendary.
Right. Legendary. I like it.
That is a legendary list, no doubt.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mine, I think, and now that I see and hear you guys and do which I've heard it before, obviously your other podcasts, but I think mine were more like, who do I like and who do I like to watch and emulate?
Yeah.
People don't just say, hey, that's the greatest coach ever, because I mean, Underwood's only got 252 career head coaching wins, but he did start being a head coach, so he's like 50 some. So, but these other guys, you're thinking, wow, I mean, that's the list of all lists, And I know that, like you mentioned, John Wooden, I would love to. I love all reading about him and everything. But I was born in '67. I never saw him coach live. So
yeah, it's just when you look at those stats, like Coach K. I mean, he was a head coach for 47 seasons. He was head coach of 5 years for Army and 42 at one school. Like that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Did you imagine coaching for 47 years, Coach P? Could you do that?
You never know. When I retire, I might get back into it. You never know.
Right. Yeah.
42 years, crazy. 30 years went in the blink, though. I will tell you that. Enjoy it because it goes fast. Well,
yeah, I assistant and I've been coaching for 15 years in some capacity. So it doesn't seem like I've been coaching that long. So it is wild for sure.
Time flies.
It's fun though. I love it. All right. I do have to give a shout out, and I should have done this at the beginning, but our guest last week was Tyson Caesar. He's an athlete at Comanche. He won the Drake Relay High Jump Championship over the weekend. He jumped 6'8" for the high jump, and that was Comanche's first Drake champion in I think over 30 years. So great accomplishment there. Do you know what the Drake Relays is, Coach Parsons in Iowa, or no?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah. So all classes together, he won it all. So happy for him, and good stuff right there. So
I saw that in the
shout out Tyson Caesar, Comanche's own.
What a good kid. Not a good kid. What a great kid.
Yeah, he's a good kid. Yep.
What a great kid.
Yes, sir. All right. I don't think I have anything else for Coach P. Do you have anything else for him, JP?
No, appreciate you coming on. It's like I said, before we went live, it's nice to get the different perspectives. I like when we get to that segment where Coach Coit's got the questions for the guests. It's kind of nice to just sit back and listen, because normally I'm always blabbing away in my personal life. It's nice to just listen to you, hear what you guys really have to say, because it definitely makes you look at things a lot differently. So appreciate you coming on and giving your experiences and your wisdom and everything that you've learned over the years.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was really good. I hope you guys, I enjoy podcasts. I listen to them and hope you guys keep this rolling, and best wishes. I appreciate it. I felt like it was an honor to be on. So sorry that I talked too much, but that's just me. So
we need that. No, because if we just got, a sentence response, we'll be done in about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So
my kids always used to tell me when I do radio and TV interviews, and they're like, Dad, how come the people interviewing you only get to ask you one or two questions? And I said, honey, and I tell my daughter, honey, that's because I talk a lot. So
yeah, you did great. Good work. Appreciate you coming on, spending some time with us. Best of luck to you.
Not a problem. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, or thanks for having me on, I should say.
Yep. And those of you still listening, make sure you follow our page, and we'll be back next week. Peace.
Adios.